Hello everyone, you're welcome to the channel. Are you a first time viewer? Take a seat by clicking on the subscribe button to join the family, and remember to turn on your notification bell so that each time I post a new video you will be the first to view it. And to my old subscribers, thank you for coming back for another video. So here's the dress we'll be making today. Let's go into it. So the material I used a sample lace 1 yard, doll face, black doll face 1.5 yard, net 10 yards, and another doll face for my collar. So we'll be starting off with the basic pattern, and this pattern is for a 1-year-old child. So I folded my paper into 4 places. I'm cutting both the back and the front together. I have my zipper allowance already marked out, and I marked my starting line. The length I'm working with is 8 inches, and I added my joining allowance to the skirt part. So after joining the 2 lines, I will go over to my shoulder and take my neck width. I'm working with a neck width of 1.75, that is 1/3, and a neck depth of 2 inches. Remember, I'm making this for a 1-year-old child, and I'll connect the 2 points. So this is for my front neckline, and I will take half of my shoulder measurement. I'm working with a shoulder measurement of 8, half of it is 4, but I'll be having a sleeve, so I'll be joining it with 1/2 inch. So I marked 4.5, and on that point I came down by 1/2 inch, and I joined it back to the neck width. So from that point I'll get my armhole depth. Half of it is 3.5. I'm taking it 3.5, and I'll mark out 4 inches on that line. That is 3.5 plus the 1/2 inch that I've came down with initially. That's 4 inches. So this line is now my chest line, and whatever I have on my shoulder line, I will put it on this chest line. So this is my armhole depth, and I'll take half of it to get the midpoint. So on this midpoint I'll be coming in by 1/2 inch. So the front part is meant to be deeper than the back part because we are having a sleeve. So half of my chest circumference is 20 inches, half of it is 5 inches, plus my 1 inch seaming allowance. You can add an ease to your measurement, half of an inch ease if you want. So I just marked exactly the same thing on my waist area, and I am joining them together. So from that end, from the armhole depth, I will get my armhole curve. So I will join my back curve and my front curve. You can make use of a pattern curve or your free hand. So I'll be using my free hand to get the one that went deeper is my front armhole, then the one outside is my back armhole. So the next thing is to add 1/2 inch on my shoulder for my shoulder joining, and my pattern is ready. Then I will move to my neck depth at the back. I'm taking 1 inch. If you are doing a basic one, is 1 inch. Note that this 1 inch is subject to change. Now it depends on the pattern, the style you are using for the back. So I'll go ahead and cut through my front lines, my back lines. I'll go ahead and cut through my back lines first, then I'll cut through my front line. So after cutting, I'll label as the front and indicate that it should be cut on fold on the fabric, though I have it on fold on this paper. And my back should be cut into 2 places. And for my zipper area, I came up by 1/2 inch and connected back to the side seam. This is to eliminate any zip bulge at the back area. The front is meant to be longer than the back. So I will trim off my front neckline and my front armhole. So my allowance has been added to this pattern. I will use it to cut on my fabric. So for the back pattern, I want to have another neckline. I'll come down by 4 inch. Remember, I came down by 1 inch before, so in total I came down by 4 inches, and I'm making it a V neckline. So it depends on you. Whatever neckline you want to use for the back is up to you. So if I open up, this is what I have. I'll still trim off that 4 inches back neckline that I came down with. So I will use this to cut it on my fabric exactly the way it is. I've added all my seam allowances. So after cutting on my fabric, I ironed an interfacing. This is a fabric interfacing, not the paper on, just the soft fabric interfacing. I added it to my main fabric. That's the doll face satin that I'm using. And I want to get my Peter Pan collar. So I have another doll face, milk off-white doll face satin. I also iron and interfacing on it. I iron and interface a fabric interfacing as well, and it's folded into two. The length is about 13.5. It should just be the length that would allow you cut the Peter Pan collar, or just take the length for the front bodies. So I've folded into 4 now, and I place my front part on it. But before that, I would like to mark out half an inch. If you are using half an inch to stitch your Peter Pan collar, just mark out half an inch. If you are using 0.25, just mark it out. So on the folded edge, please, on the folded edge, I marked out half an inch. And when I place my front part on it, I will not allow it to touch the edge. I'll just allow it to touch that line, the half an inch line that I marked out, and I'll trace out my neckline and my shoulder area. So this half an inch I marked now is very optional. So I don't want my Peter Pan collar to open up at the center. So I want it to be, the two collar to be meeting. So when I measure what I have there, I'll be left with 2.5 inches. So I decided to make the width of my collar as 2 inches. I am taking 2 inches around the line I marked. So when I join the line, I'll have something like this. You can use your curve or your freehand. So to that half inch that I marked, I'll just come out, and from the inner one, you can just use your freehand. I'll just come in by half an inch and I'll connect. So this connection now, the half an inch that is outside the straight line, is just so that when I sew it, when I turn it over, I will still have the two of them meeting at the center, at the center front, at the center point, so that I will not be having a collar that is open, that is not meeting. They are just apart with about half an inch or quarter inch. So I want them that even after sewing, they will still meet up at the center. So I will just go ahead and cut this, and as I cut it, it will be into 4. So if you don't want your collar to, the 2 points to be meeting at the center, is up to you. Please ignore that first part that I just marked half an inch. Take your fabric close to the edge of the folded end. But this is just what I want. But I think Peter Pan collar is always beautiful when they are meeting at the point, at the center point. So when I open up, I have 4 pieces. I'll be using the one to turn each other, so that is why I have 4. So if you are using different fabric, just 2 for each of the fabrics you are using. So I'll turn the edges, and just like what I was trying to explain, if I place it on my front bodies, that 2 point, the 2 edges that have overlapped each other is what I want. So for my band, this band does not really, just to give it that stylish look, I have 4 inches, and the width is the width of the front bodice. I will sew it and turn it out, and I've stitched on the Peter Pan collar. Make sure to give it a notch so that it will relax very well. I'll give it a notch, and I will turn it inside out. You will take to your ironing board to iron it properly. So you can top stitch it or use a hemming gun and place inside and iron it, but I did not do any of this. My own just laid flat when I iron it. So to the band, I just iron it, making sure that the seam line is up, and I'm turning it inside out. So I'll still take it back to my ironing board to iron it so that it stays put, and this as well. So after ironing all this, when I bring my front bodice, you can see that they are meeting at a point. So at this point they are meeting, they are no longer overlapping. So I don't want to have something like this. I do not want it. I just want to have something meeting. At this point that I've stitched on the edges, they are now meeting, no longer overlapping. So don't mind the way I was placing it. They are just meeting and not overlapping. So I will take to my machine and stitch it to the neckline, and this I'll stitch to the side, leaving half an inch on the down part for my skirt stitching. So I've done that, and you can see they are no longer overlapping but meeting. This is my back pattern. So but before I join the shoulder, I would like to join my belt. If you're having a belt at this point, you can join your belt. So I'll have, if you don't know how to do this, I have a video on that on this channel. I'll place the right side together for the front and the back, and I'll join the shoulder. I will repeat the same thing for this lining. So this is what I have after joining them, both the lining and the fabric I'm using, and I'll place it right side on each other so that I'll be able to turn my neckline. But before that, I'm marking where my zipper allowance is. I will not be stitching my zipper allowance. I will stitch from one end to other. So for my sleeve, I have a doffers material cut out. There are two. The length is 16 inches by 8 inches. So 16 inches width, 8 inches length. So I folded into 4 now, and from the open end I came down by 4 inches. So I just made a slight curve here. I want to use this freehand method to just cut out the sleeve. There are several methods of cutting out sleeve. This is just one of them, freehand. This is not drafting. So from the down part I came in by 1.5 inches, and I just connected this. I was rushing, that was why I decided to use this method to cut this out. So I will just do videos on how to properly cut a puff sleeve, but this actually did justice to what I wanted. So this is what I have. As you can see, I made the sleeve exaggerated. This is not actually the size of a 1-year-old sleeve, but because we are making a puff sleeve, so the sleeve needs to be way bigger than the normal one. So when I open up, I have this. So I will iron it and cut 2 more of this. So when I iron, on my lining piece, I added an interfacing. So why do I normally add interface? Just to make the things, the fabric sturdy, just to give it a bit of strength. And it will, if you are using a material that frays, it reduces the amount of fray you will be having. So I'm placing right side on each side, and I'll turn the down part. After sewing on the down part, I'll turn it wrong side on wrong side this time around. You can press it up at this point. So after turning it this way, I will create my elastic casing of half an inch. I'm using an elastic of half an inch, so I'll take to my sewing machine and stitch that place up. I'll sew it with half an inch, and I'll be passing my elastic of 6 inches through the casing that I made. So the round sleeve of the child is what you'll be taking. This is a 1-year-old child, so I'll be using an elastic of 6 inches. After doing that, I just stitch the two together so that they will not be flying separately, and I am passing my elastic through the casing. So midway into it, just pin the other end down so that it does not get into it. Pin it down so that your elastic does not slip into it and make it difficult for you again. So I'll drag the other end out, and I'll go to my machine and stitch on both ends. I'll repeat the same thing to the second one. Then to the upper part, if you measure the upper part, you will notice that it is way bigger than the armhole that we worked with. So here I have about 18, and when I measure my armhole, I'll be having about 12. So I didn't really want to make this as too big, because this is a 1-year-old child. It is up to you if you are making yours, if you want it to be exaggerated, or it's up to you. So I'm taking out my stitching allowance. I'll be joining the bodice with 1 inch and the sleeve with 1 inch. So after taking it out, the remaining part, I will pleat it to match the armhole of the child. So this pleating is what will give it that puffiness. So pleat it, make sure the pleats are equal, and concentralize your pleating on the center part. Give some allowances on the stitching allowance side. So when I match it up with my armhole, I'll still attach my elastic on this one. I'm just using this one to illustrate. So whatever I do on one sleeve is what I'll be doing on the second sleeve. And remember, I've joined my neckline, but I've not notched it, so I'll just notch it very well. For the fact that I have a lot of interfacing ironed on this, so it will be thick, therefore I will top stitching it towards the lining side. So I iron interfacing on my main fabric and on my Peter Pan collar, so imagine the thickness. So I will top stitch all through, and after top stitching I will iron and stitch on my lining and on my bodice with 1 inch stitching allowance. So for my skirt part, since I'm working with a length of 26 inches, that is the to floor length, from shoulder to floor length is 26 inches, and I've cut out 8 inches already, so the remaining is what I'll be cutting out on this net fabric. I was able to get 18.5 inches. You know, net is by 60 inches, so I was able to get 18.5 into 3 places. So I'll go ahead and gather each of them up. After pleating on my sleeve and stitching it with 1 inch seam allowance, this is what I have. So as you can see, it's ready to be fixed to the upper part. And also I've joined my side together. I attached a button here. For the fact that I have a lot of interfacing on it, there is tendency that the lining will be pulling outside, so I had to secure that point, that neck area, with a button. So you can do this or you just leave it. So I'll go ahead and attach my sleeve, and I'll attach my skirt part. I have a half circle cut out here. I'll attach it to this lining part. So I'll pin them right side facing each other, and I'll stitch with half an inch. And to my main fabric, I've already joined the 3 net together and my lace to it, and I also joined a half circle to it as well. So I'll match its right side to the upper part and also with half an inch. And after that, this is what I have. It's already looking beautiful. And the inside, when I turn the inside, this is how it looks. For the sleeve area, I will overlock it, or you can just use a cotton bias to seal it up. So there are several means of getting a neat finishing. And if you've watched up to this point, remember to click the subscribe button if you've not, and also give me a thumbs up. See you in my next video, as I will be bringing a lot this season. Thank you for watching and bye.